So the conversation that we want to have here, and it's going to be two things. One, we are the optimal joke that you have to make when you're the last presenter before happy hours, right? I'm the thing that keeps you in between. We're supposed to be 45 minutes. If we're gambling, I'll take the over. Okay? Somebody said you give an Italian a room and a mic, you give a Puerto Rican a room and a mic, and I'm here all day. That's one. Two is, what I'm going to promise you today is that you are going to leave with a understanding that what we do as insurance professionals really means more than we give credit for. So you'll see here that and Scott started the presentation, the whole session off with the theme, right? It was, I don't know what the order was that you said it, but it was the right order. We are not very good rule followers, so we changed ours. So our scenario is going to start with motivate, integrate, and innovate. And so just some questions. Anybody have a degree in risk management insurance? Okay, I'm the only one.
I thought Wesley was holding his hand up. It's just the camera.
So give me some words. Why are you in this business? Audience participation usually helps around here.
Provide for my family.
Okay, provide for a family.
Make as much as you want.
Make as much as you want. Relationships.
Recurring revenue.
Recurring revenue.
That's why we get
Job
along,
flexibility.
Change the world.
Change the world. I like that one. We're going to end on that one. Family pressure. One of the things we love about our relationship with you guys is everybody in this room, or most of you, pay money to be part of a organization that cares more about things that the average person doesn't care about. Right? So your average competition in your marketplace is your average Joe broker, right? They're going to place a policy, they're going to get paid for it. There's not a really big understanding about how and why it impacts the employer that they are working with. And I really think I have an absolute question that you guys, this is the only part of audience participation that I really need, okay? If you truly believe, and I want to start off with this theme, if you truly believe that what you do for the organizations that you serve truly does impact them as organizations, I need you to stand up. So that's awesome. If you're not standing up, you're in the wrong room. And so Scott, the thing I wanted to start with is, this is you. This is you, because obviously you are creating the vibe that's in there, and so I wanted to thank you for that, because everybody stood up, and you can sit back down. So what we're going to do is work through this presentation. Some of this is going to be like inspirational, kind of motivational, just to kind of think some things. But the reality of what we want you to take from today is how this whole integration of growing while impacting is going to be the case. So
I should have asked this while everybody was standing up. It's going to be rhetorical now, because I don't want you to stand up again. This isn't a Catholic wedding. But whose work life has changed over the past couple of years? I would reckon that everybody in this room, in one way, shape, or form, is considered a leader in their organization. Your role is changing. Things are getting more difficult. The world's kind of crazy. Am I allowed to swear? The world's kind of crazy. I would usually use more colorful language than that. Who's been to a grocery store lately? When I grew up, every shelf was full all the time. Not quite the same anymore. There's stuff going on in Ukraine, to put it lightly. Are we post-pandemic? Because now there's a 15 millionth different variant for a virus that's going to come get us all and ruin our businesses again. I work a lot with tribal casinos that have been around for 20 years and never once locked one of their doors. They were closed for 6 months. Work culture is changing a little bit. I don't know if you can notice by just the way I look. I'm a millennial. We're weird, we want stuff, we expect things. I don't know if we deserve it, but we expect things. And that's only getting worse with different generations. Additionally, people started working from home. That changed stuff a little bit too, huh? Xander, are you gonna hire somebody who is not in Rock Hill, South Carolina? Ooh, that's different. Things are changing, and things are changing more and more rapidly. All sorts of cultural issues aside, things are changing drastically. And what's really difficult is how do we find good quality people to help us deliver on a mission that drives organizational change and drives value for the organizations we work with. That value proposition continues to get more difficult because you don't know where the talent is coming from. You don't know how to get them to buy into your culture when they're working out of Montana and you're in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Things are changing drastically. This was shown earlier, and I felt real good about it because that made me instantly credible, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Why is it important? Why did the Institute show it? Because we know from a psychological standpoint, for you to hire somebody and for them to produce business for them, make money so that they can support a family, get as much revenue as they want, do whatever it is that Warren's going to drive to do business. They have to have all of this provided for them in one way, shape, or form. Do they become participants in how that is provided to them? Absolutely. But this is a psychological fact that if I don't know where my next meal is coming from, I'm probably not going to be a good worker. And right now, if you turn on the news, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen at closing bell. What's your why? Do you know your why? Can you specifically say to a person who doesn't know you why you sell insurance? Because if you go to somebody who's at SHRM, RIMS, and they're a prospect, your why isn't just so I can provide for my family. Your why is all of these things that you do. I have a why in insurance. I have a why as to why I'm so passionate about this. My first 2 months in insurance, I sold a group. One of the lowest paid workers of that group was getting denied a biopsy. Getting denied a test to see if he had life-threatening cancer. He had it. We got the test accepted, he had it. They wanted him to stay local because they said, a couple chemo treatments and he'll be fine. 2 weeks later, he had 3 months left to live. We got him sent to MD Anderson Hospital. He lived an additional 9 months, got to see his son get married, got to walk them down the aisle. Didn't make it any further than that. But without what we do, what would the answer have been? No.
You keep going.
When we talk about your mission as a corporate culture, Xander, people first, what do?
We put people first.
Oh, you nailed it. Does every single one of your employees know that? Does every single one of your clients know that? Could you go to somebody right now, could you go to an account manager right now and say, what do we do? How do we do it? The last firm I worked at, the CEO came up with a brilliant mission statement. What we do and how we do it matters. Everybody on board with that? Kevin, I asked you to do some homework. What's your mission statement?
Protect tomorrow today.
Sir, you nailed it. Does everyone at your firm know that? Does every one of your clients know that?
That's a great question. I'd say yes, they do.
Keep it that way. Make sure they do.
Yeah, that's the point.
It is so important to be mission aligned when you have somebody working for you in Montana and you're in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and you're asking them to service what could be a small account and spend hours of their day doing that, for them to know why they are doing it.
So back to the motivation part. I always like people to know why the hell I care so much. I was born in Puerto Rico. A lot of you know that I still live there right now. My parents moved us to the States, I would say chasing the American dream. I lived a normal life, loved baseball, did everything, and the day after Christmas, when I was 15 years old, my dad was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. For those of you that don't know what that is cancer of your bone marrow. Bone marrow transplant, chemo, radiation, and hundreds of thousands of dollars of a bill. So my dad lived here for the 3 years, the Buffett Cancer Center. So my entire high school career, my dad was in the hospital. So I got to basically live alone. My mom was with my dad, my brother was in the military, and I remember thinking that, hey, I'm lucky because my parents both worked. They were the epitome of the immigrant mindset, right? We worked hard. Our families worked hard. My mom worked for the federal government, 41 years at the VA hospital. My dad at the time was working at Chase. And I remember thinking both my parents had medical insurance, so everything's cool. But if you've checked out stats, right now the average deductible on a health insurance plan is over $3,000. The average out-of-pocket expense is over $6,000. And the average human being, according to the last Federal Reserve report, doesn't have $400 in the bank. So, thousands and thousands of bills. We had insurance, but the reality of it is my parents filed bankruptcy when I was 17 years old. Now, not the coolest thing to tell girls in your high school career that, hey, by the way, my parents just filed bankruptcy. I didn't know what it was. I didn't really know what it meant. And so I go to college getting $250 out of my dad's disability policy, and I go to, wrong slide. I go to Florida State. So I joked, most people get into this business backwards. I actually am doing this on purpose. My degree is in risk management insurance. I say that because the why and what you do absolutely matters. So I've had an amazing career. I spent most of my life at Willis Towers Watson, grew my own $3.5 million book as a producer. I ran sales for North America. We were a $350 million practice. I had 200 producers that worked for me. But the reality of it is, turning the Titanic sucks. Building health plans that you know your parents suffered from doesn't make sense, right? And so there was a day, worst day of my life. Never, if anybody ever tells you they have pancreatic cancer, Google pancreatic cancer. So my mom, any Latin boys in the room besides the one I brought with me? Latin boys are big mama's boys. So if you have a son, I'm a huge mama's boy. My mom called me and she says, hey, pancreatic cancer. Conversation with mom was, bet on you. So I was the number 2 person in a $350 million practice, and within 6 months, I left. Why? Because it didn't align with what I wanted to do. I knew that we were being part of the problem as opposed to part of the solution. Now, unfortunately, by the time I was 40 years old, I'm 42 right now, by the time I was 40 years old, both of my parents have died. And I say that not because of because at the end of the day, it drives every single decision of what we do and how we do it. And I have become insane around learning how to actually do something that matters. So when we think about what it is that all of us do, I want you to take away that it is not the insurance policy that you place. It is the meaning behind the protection of it. There are families around what it is that you're doing when you're protecting a business. And I remember opening the book up day one. So people always ask, hey, when you graduated college and you got your degree in insurance, what's the difference? I just knew what the term underwriter was when I got out of school, right? So the reality of it is the definition of insurance, right? To protect the unknown, right? And so when we think about that, it is so much, and I love this story, so I'll steal the thunder here. So one of the questions that we ask is, hey, why do you guys do what you do? And so one of the reasons I fell in love with Mr. Addis was the story he tells around, and look at this amazing, somebody said he was good looking, but nobody said he was that lucky. I mean, goodness gracious. So, Scott, can you share, in case people haven't heard the story, in regards to why it is that we don't sell insurance?
Well, I'm not sure of the story, but I truly believe we educate people in a process.
So you had somebody tell you one time, they're not interested in all the stuff that you're saying. What do you sell? What do you?
Was that the Friday night cocktail party?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's had a couple of those.
The Friday night cocktail party.
This day did change my life. And a little bit of background, we sent our kids to a private independent schools in Philadelphia. And my wife, Bobby, says to me, Scott, we've got a function at a doctor's home who's hosting a party for our 6th grade family, Andrew's class and so forth. And when you get there, make sure you look nice. That was her comment, saying I had to, look as nice as I could. So anyhow, I had a starched white shirt and a tie, and I go into this event, and it was a beautiful home, probably a $4 or $5 million home outside of Philadelphia. The guy was a big name doctor, all this shaker furniture in the home. But I'll never forget, I was having a conversation with somebody, and the guy comes up to my right shoulder, and I turn around to shake his hand, and he goes, oh my gosh, he goes, Scott Addis, I've really wanted to meet you for a number of years. I know you're coaching kids. I know you're involved with the local Chamber of Commerce. I'm hearing great things about you, and I have to say something. You are one heck of a great accountant. The Addis Group is a great recognition. I know you're a very high-profile accounting firm. And I looked and I said, well, actually, we're not. We're an insurance brokerage. And as soon as I said that, he took a half a step back and crossed his arms. And the first words out of his mouth were, what do you sell? And think of those words. If I was a physician, would he said, what do I sell? Investment advisor, I don't think he said, what do you sell? A banker, an attorney, but as soon as he heard insurance, what do you sell? And my comment was, I don't sell anything. I design and build risk management programs for high net worth individuals and growth-oriented middle market companies. Well, you said insurance. What kind of insurance do you sell? I said, really, I don't sell anything. I've got a process. But anyway, he cut me off and he said, you know what you sound like? You sound like a financial planner. All these planners are saying that they're doing planning. In reality, it's disguised. You're one of those guys, aren't you? And he walked away. I'll never forget, I went from being this great guy in our community who is doing terrific things, but I was an accountant, and then when he found out I was an insurance broker, he walked away. And we get in the car that night, and Bobby says to me, wasn't that a great party? And I said, it sucked. and she said, well, what happened? And I said, well, Bobby, do you know what it's like to work as hard as your husband works and give as much as you give, to be viewed the way we are in the industry? And she said, Scott, you're never going to change it. And I said, well, you're a registered nurse, and wouldn't you agree that you like the way you're perceived and how you're viewed in the industry? But I know how much I give, but I don't like the way I'm perceived. She said, Scott, you'll never change it. And I said, Bobby, all I know is no one's going to ever make me feel that low. Has anyone ever made you to feel unimportant? I don't know, I just didn't like it and I wasn't proud. So anyhow, I started thinking that's where the name Risk Architect came. I was thinking, how could I convey to someone who I am? So I came up with the name Risk Architect. I know it was corny, but someone says, what do you do? And I said, I'm a risk architect. And they leaned forward and said, really, what is a risk architect? I design and build programs for high net worth individuals and middle market companies. Well, tell me more. I said, well, you think of an architect, they're designing and building. That's what we do. We design and build. Plus, most importantly, we build a foundation for the family and business's success. And that's through a process-driven approach. So I know we recognized as certified risk architects, but that came one night out of me just getting so angry and frustrated with people just didn't see who I was and what I delivered.
Thank
I
you.
hope that's helpful.
That's it. What you do and how you do it matters. Anybody remember this? I think the military would call it FUBAR. Ship gets stuck in the middle of the Suez Canal. Suez Canal is responsible for $3 to $9 billion of commerce a day. Kind of a nightmare as far as supply chain goes. You folks in commercial lines are the ones who staved off a 0.5% increase of inflation a day because you sell the right insurance. You architect the correct risk. People don't understand the small events. So when my wife asked me how my day was, I'm just like, I had a lot of meetings. I don't tell her that I got a drug deferred off of a health plan, or I made sure somebody's stop-loss policy was correct because the eyes glaze over, or she steps back and crosses her arm, right, Scott? Global events tell the story to make people understand what you do and how you do it. When we think about something that you do, one of the most popular things that came up through the pandemic was business interruption, right? Business interruption insurance. What it really is business protection insurance. You're protecting businesses every day when their employee leaves in the company truck that's worth $150,000 with $150,000 more product on it, that if that person, God forbid, gets into a car accident or something else happens, that business gets to stay open the next day. That's pretty important. Other things that have happened recently. 2 years of fun pandemic that nobody understands or can predict what's going to happen next. Cybersecurity seems to be kind of an issue now that Russia dislikes us even more than they did before. And then additionally, we talked about it, grocery stores are empty. One of my clients bought 40 pallets of hotel room keys before the pandemic went into full effect because they knew they couldn't get branded room keys on demand anymore. They started selling those room keys. Supply chain, it's changed. You protect it. If you ask today the people that you speak to financial buyers, what is keeping you up at night? When you think about your business, what's keeping you up at night? Supply chain disruption, makes sense. Employee retention. I'm losing employees over 25 cents an hour. I'm losing employees who are highly trained individuals. I can't pay them enough, but they get a $5,000 bonus from Walmart when they work in their supply center for 90 days. They don't know where they're going to keep the talent pipeline coming from. We don't know what kids are interested in anymore. They all want to sell toys on YouTube and make $3.5 million a year. Automation is coming. We still don't know what that means. Everything's going to be automated, but it's not, but it might be. It's digital transformation, working from the middle of Montana or India, or your cybersecurity risk continues to happen. And then business transformation, what you are responsible for running your business today, the things that continue to change. These are what's keeping people up. Most of all, what you heard from that, I don't know how I'm going to protect my human capital. I don't know where I'm going to find my human capital. Many of our clients are 30% down on their labor force. I don't know if you know this story. Anybody remember what Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, said in 2014 about how much they spend on healthcare? $300 million a year. More than they spend on coffee beans. Does anybody know what Warren Buffett thinks about General Motors? Direct quote from Warren Buffett. General Motors is not a car company. General Motors is a healthcare company with an automotive component. They spend more on people than they spend on steel.
So the conversation that we're going to transition to is understanding that every single client that you have, if you talk to them about their organizational needs, their risks, their concerns, there's a human capital component to it. And so the relationship on this is really the conversation of the impact that you can make on the organization, but what you can do for your own organization having this conversation. So if you've ever looked at your client's P&L statement, where does healthcare rank? Top 3. Only behind? So when you look at their human capital and what you can touch as an impact to that human capital, it is by far, typically 60 to 70% of their overall revenue goes to their human capital in some way, shape, or form. It is everything back to what is concerning to a CFO. Everything on there is either a human capital need or a conversation in which They need money to invest. I want to grow. I want to hire a new salesperson. I want to open a new office in Albuquerque. Whatever the answer is, it requires money. And so the transition that we want to have right now is trying to relate why the conversation that we love with you guys is so far different than the conversations that your peers are going to have in your marketplace when it comes to human capital, employee benefits, healthcare. So you guys talk about risk management. Right? We don't talk about risk management on our side. If you've ever heard, how many of you have employee benefit operations? Okay. What is the value proposition that your employee benefits operation says? Audience participation. Don't all speak at one time. Someone's going to talk. Educate. We save money. Okay. If, as an industry, employee benefits professionals showed the trend line since Obamacare, and you turned it upside down and you said that that was your financial advisor's result to your own personal portfolio, we would all be fired. Double-digit rate increases for the last 3 decades is what we as an industry have produced. There is no conversation about risk management in our world, and so what we're going to translate this conversation for anybody that was in our benefits session, or why I'm telling you that you should start paying attention to these conversations, is the risk management on our side is quality. This is an actual screenshot that I took from a presentation. Scott's got a prospect in Buffalo, New York. This is a 6,000 life group. And this is the #1 hospital that their employees were going to. It has a 1.3 score out of 100 as far as quality. And they're spending $3.5 million at the crappiest hospital that they could go to. That conversation doesn't happen. When you are having that conversation already about that organization's risk management, their #1 risk is their human capital, but they're allowing people to go nilly-willy and not even think about it. Think about your own healthcare purchasing journey. When's the last time you actually asked a question about how much something costs, or was that person quality? You probably all should be taking, thank you for being honest. I don't know your name, young lady, but thank you for being honest. She goes, never. I've never said that.
I did recently, but the doctor didn't know.
So, loss control.
That makes you feel good.
You guys talk about loss control, right? Hey, we know something's going to happen. How do we make sure we mitigate that as much as possible? The loss control in our business is that, did you know, from where we are right now, in a 10-mile radius, I could pay $300 for an MRI, or I could pay $6,000 for an MRI. I can go to a knee surgery and have it for $68,000 at Banner, or I can go to the sports orthopedic procedure place down the road and have it for $18,500. But we don't have these conversations in this, and so you guys as a organization, as property and casualty minded people, you're already having these conversations, and if it's just translated into the healthcare side. So the reason I want this session to leave you motivated about our opportunity collectively is A, I like to make money with you, but B, the reality of it is this can't be delivered in other places. We know each other back from our old days at Willis. I'm telling you the reality of, I could not deploy what I'm doing now at Willis because 9% of our organizational revenue in North America came from overrides and contingents. We didn't pay producers on that. It was the highest revenue of our organization, which drove what? The stock price. 119 executives in North America, most of our compensation was tied to the stock price. When your model is legacy, it cannot change. The opportunity for you guys is the jet ski versus the tugboat versus, if it's some people, the freaking Titanic. I had 150 producers Let's go the other way. I had 50 producers that had not written a piece of business in 3 years, and I could not fire them because they wouldn't let me. They were on average making $141,000 a year. I now run a P&L. I really know what that means, right? So here's the only commercial you're going to get from us on stage right now is just making sure that everybody understands what it is that we're all doing together and why it means something to you. So one, every single month, every single week, there is something that you guys can consume about this information. On your desk here, on the chair, there is a little QR code. When we talk about sales and marketing, I want you to go there and consume that. It is a, surprise, surprise, because all of you got a video from me. It is a video. But what I want you to take from this is the education nature of this. You guys all have a PNC block of business that you're already trusted advisors to people who financially write the check for their second or third largest expense. And every other Tom, Dick, and Harry that walks into their office talks about the same things. I got a great relationship with United Healthcare. Do you guys understand that on the benefit side, you don't get appointed by carriers? If you can pass the test that the Aflac guy who was flipping burgers did yesterday, you can sell health insurance. There is no appointment. Every single broker who submits the same information to the same carrier gets the same exact rate. There is no differentiation. So understand that the conversation that you're having with the person who is stroking that check, sounding different, is going to be magic. So every single week, something comes out on an email that you could forward to your clients and prospects. When they download it, they listen to it, they take the, whatever it is, we get a notification to be able to tell you that, hey, by the way, someone that you want to talk to is actually doing that. What are the two hardest questions to answer in sales? You're all in sales, you should do. Hardest two questions.
Who would call and what to talk about?
Did you hear that from me before?
Lunch together.
Still, I appreciate that. You get a drink ticket, you get a drink ticket. Who and what? Think about it. Who and what? Who do I call and what do I talk to them about? Imagine the opportunity of knowing who you call because they downloaded your ebook, they watched a video. What do I talk to them about? I don't know, maybe the subject of that email or the subject of the video. So this is something that the Academy is a brand that is owned by BIGN. This is exclusive only to you guys, okay? For this, behind the scenes, there's an entire program built. So you don't have benefits operation? Cool, we can play that role. You have a very sophisticated one. We have talked to people that have great benefits practices. This is a different conversation than anybody is. Have you ever heard anybody have a conversation about the cost and the quality of healthcare? Would you want to go to a shitty doctor? Excuse my language. It was going to happen at some point. So the reality of the conversations is that they're different. So where's my buddies? There. Okay. So we just wrote a deal with these guys. It was a 15-year client. My favorite conversation is the old man. So it's a car dealership. The old man Gary. Gary calls. He's like, "Hey, Morales." I haven't been called Morales since my baseball days. Hey, Morales. I am old, but I'm not that old. He was pissed that his doc wanted him to go to get a stress test. This is in Chicago. You know about Chicago? Where would you go to get a stress test? What's a hospital you know the name of in Chicago?
Northwestern, it's like the Ivy League.
Northwestern. So his doctor tells him, County, don't go there. That's gunshot victims. So his doctor says, go get your stress test at Northwestern. He calls Northwestern, surprisingly, because the guy has planes that he owns, so he doesn't really care about the money part. He wanted to test the theory. So we had been talking to him about the cost and quality of healthcare changes depending on where you go. So he calls Northwestern, he says, I have to have a stress test. How much is it going to be? $11,000. He calls me, he says, Morales, $11,000 for a stress test? I said, give me 30 minutes. I called our advocate company that we partner with. In 30 minutes, we had him 3 offers from $875 to $1,400. They were all within 15 miles of his zip code. It is a new client that has an opportunity to save 22% on their health care. This happens every single day, and it's because Northwestern's charging $11,000 for a stress test, and you can get it down the street. And P.S., down the street is actually a higher quality place.
Yeah, it's not on the street.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Down the street.
We've worked with some of you in here and done some really interesting things, and we're making some great progress. Alice Akers Arnie, did we help you this year?
Yeah, one of our largest clients, 2,000 employees, being targeted by March. They got an email, they clicked on it, they watched the webinar, they got all excited. March came in, about to take it from us, brought you guys in, and knocked them back out.
And then you shared with me last night, too, you got really frustrated.
Yeah, well, I wondered what part of frustration, there's several.
Just the overall talking to me, you got frustrated. The 2 clients that saw the shiny new toy.
Yeah, we've had several instances like that, and we've had, we've got a great group of that's going to preface it with that, right? But we've got some who've been around a long time and haven't really brought up anything other than traditional, here's the insurance renewal, this is what you got. We lose one, I come back in to do a debrief with the client about a year later, and we find out, wow, they had some great ideas they came up with. Have you ever heard of an HSA? And I just about threw up. And they're getting they send me these great articles, these things that come from a company called Zyway. Sounds great. So yeah, that was a couple of years ago at this point. But yeah, it's those kind of things that we've been putting some measurements in place and things have changed, but what you two are bringing to us is helping us.
And it doesn't mean you change your business completely.
Yeah, you didn't win that piece of business, right?
We
Nope.
didn't win that piece of business. We want to help. We're here to provide value. We're here to partner with you because eventually you might actually believe the shit we're saying.
So the purpose, and again, we threw logos up there so that you understand that, hey, this is a conversation that's happening. But more importantly, this is by far our favorite relationship because I don't have to, I would rather not, and sorry for anybody who's in benefits here, changing people's minds of people who are doing it and have been doing it for 20 years the old way versus talking to y'all who have a PNC block of business, who have a relationship with a bunch of CFOs that you could put in a room. Take the conversion rate and multiply normal by 5 because you're already a trusted advisor to the person who is having the economic conversation. Because when we talk to HR, what are the 2 things that HR tells us? How much work am I going to have to do on this? This is tough, right? That's literally, and so he's like, wait, do you know how much you're spending on healthcare? Yeah, I think it's like $100,000. I'm like, it's $10 million. And I wish I was being facetious. I really honestly wish that I was being facetious. They have zero absolute clue about how much they pay on their second largest expense. And one of the reasons people work for them. If any of you ever worked for somebody else, one of the first couple questions that you ask is what? Imagine the opportunity to have a conversation saying, hey, we give you a benefits plan that you don't pay for, it's free. We have clients that charge their employees $0 and that there's $0 out-of-pocket expense. Why? Because they're spending less in healthcare today than they were yesterday.
I got to give you an anecdote. I don't know if I've even shared this with you, actually. I had a retirement advisor that I used to work with do a little arithmetic for me. If an employer saved $5,000 a year on their health insurance and devoted that into a normal growth 401k for a 22-year-old, guess how much money that 22-year-old would retire with without contributing anything themselves? $2 to $3 million. Anybody want to retire with $2 to $3 million in their bank account? If that is an aggressively placed 401k, 10.8% rate of return, $6 million.
Brandon, did you do that math in your head?
Well, yeah.
Jesus.
Nerd.
I'd like to introduce you to Rain Man here. So the point being, there's a lot of things that we can have a conversation with. Don't think that you're the only person to do that. So the last thing that we're going to do, and I'm so happy Carolyn's pushing us to do this, is that we're eventually going to this year roll out the Trusted Health Advisor. We don't know what we're going to necessarily call it this, but the reality of it is coming soon is going to be some things specifically for you guys.
Boot camp.
Boot camp. I'm not going to steal your thunder for tomorrow. I'm not going to be here. So, all right. So here's the last thing I want to leave you with, and this is we're going to leave saying victory altogether. Okay. The part of this that we wanted to end with was the innovation piece. And so I thought, man, I've never actually looked up the word, but it says innovation is crucial to continuing success for any organization. We are in an industry that is not necessarily known for a lot of innovation. You guys as homegrown, a lot of family businesses, but you are the decision maker in your agency, have the opportunity to spark or suffocate innovation. And the reality of these conversations is the impact that you can make. And I speak at a lot of risk management schools. So the Institutes was talking about the severe strain, on this business. Why? Because, I don't know, at 19 years old, selling insurance doesn't sound like the sexiest job. But the reality of what it is that the younger generations want, and so if you're looking at where you're going to drive your agency, your business, the younger workforce is where it's coming from. You know who they want to work for? People who have a mission, people who have a purpose. They want to do things that actually mean something. And so just you yourself, this business is not easy. But the reality of what you wake up with focused on, I tell myself every single morning, I am not going to let another family file bankruptcy. That is my goal. So every time we take a Humira off the plan, every time we get somebody to a higher surgery, I make sure that the team understands how they impacted that. From the marketing person that somebody developed the thing that they clicked on that we knew about it, to the account manager who helped implement that, to the claims person that at the end of the day paid that claim. I want everybody to understand that what we do actually matters. So I encourage all of you to go back and look at the clients that you do and the things that you protect and start to draw that correlation that it's not just that you're insurance professionals. It's not that you're building it. You could be architecting it, but the architecture and the purpose behind the architecture is what it is. Our industry protects and does so much for an organization, but we're not sitting a lot of times at the same table as the attorney and the accountant. And it's crap because at the end of the day, we touch more for that organization than any of those two people put together. But until we start to draw that correlation that they understand that themselves, but more importantly, that we wake up every morning understanding it ourselves, that what we do actually matters, then the reality of it is we're going to be relegated to insurance brokers. And so when I think about this, it starts with you. So I literally, I do this exercise with people all the time. I ask you to go back, think about the clients that you have and things that you've done for them. And write those stories down. Share them within your offices. Somebody who's 22 that gets into this business has no idea. They do think that they sell insurance. They don't know that they just protected this company from a catastrophic loss. They don't know the things that you do. Maybe that's the motivation that you need to now start changing that conversation, so that when you're going back to that client and we're talking about that little fee increase that you're asking for, because the value that you are creation, price is only an issue absent of value. But if all we talk about is price and don't articulate the value, then the reality of it is everyone is going to only shop price. Clients get behind people who have a mission. So I only ask you, pick 5, 10 of your clients, go back and do an analysis of what it is you do for them and why it should matter. It will motivate you, I promise. But more importantly, probably, it will get the rest of your team jacked about being an insurance professional. And then when you have recruits that are in college, when you're trying to get people from outside the business to come into the business, and being an insurance company or broker, that doesn't sound cool, right? The opportunity to have that conversation is so big. Everybody know the imposter syndrome? Right? Am I good at, do I know how to talk about this?
Why do I belong here?
One of the things I encourage everybody to do right now is on anything that you don't know, whether it's you're a generalist and you're talking about cyber, you're a PNC and you're talking about benefits, you're benefits and you're talking about PNC. Imposter syndrome is a selfish conversation. It is an internalized, I don't feel. One of the things that makes, you ask, hey, how many videos do you record a week? 70? 80? Like, yeah, am I arrogant? A little bit, yes. But the reality of it is, I truly feel that I am screwing everybody if I don't teach them about what it is that we do. I have brainwashed myself. I truly, honestly, really, I'm 100% being honest. I feel that if we don't do this, we are going to cause more people to file bankruptcy. I know what it feels like. I don't want anybody else to do it. And I have motivated myself to do that. So if you are having that conversation about imposter syndrome, like, hey, we're a PNC firm, what do we know about benefits? We're a this, what do we know about that? If you're in this room, it's because you're surrounded by talent who knows and that can drive that value. If you're not the person that can drive the value, then partner with somebody that is. Have that in your office. Have a partnership with somebody else that's sitting in this that could be in, Rock Hill, South Carolina, or in Washington State. It doesn't matter. Clients don't care about business cards, area codes, or time zones anymore. What they care about is value, and if you're the connector, you are the value creation. And so if it's only that, if you understand somebody else here can drive value for one of your clients and all you did was connect, even though you might be saying, I'm not the one that does that. Let me ask you a question. If you had your own personal financial advisor and they said to you, hey, there's this new strategy that our firm is bringing to the table, but I'm not the expert. I'd like to bring somebody else in. And it was going to make you $50,000 extra a year. Would you be okay with that person bringing that person in? Then why the hell do we think as an industry that we shouldn't bring another person who's an expert in something and we get bashful about it? It's the most, we do this to ourselves. But then at the end of the day, the person who suffers is that client because they probably didn't get the value. Or what happens? Somebody else brings that value in and then you just lost your account. But it starts with that mentality that me, can control that. And P.S., if I don't sell this to everybody I know, I just did them a disjustice. It has nothing to do with me. And the day you start to really get that out of your mind is the day that when you now learn something in this event, you guys are paying your own money to be part of a event, a group, a people that are just waking up every morning wanting to drive value. I can't tell you how cool that is. This has nothing to do with a paycheck. I worked for Willis for a paycheck. I run a business for passion. I made more money there, promise. A 31-year-old having a $3.5 million book is a lot of bottles of vodka at the bar. I had a good life. Running a business, as you all know, sucks sometimes. But the value that is being created is the answer. So, the thing that you should know is that nobody in here is a competitor of obviously somebody else around that table, but more importantly is nobody is alone. I wish you guys would hug. That would be amazing. Can you guys? He won't. Just give him a hug. He'll do it. He'll do it. Everybody in here, to everybody else, has your back. Is that true? Is there anybody in here that if somebody else in this organization called them and said, I need help, would everybody agree that they would help somebody else? Like, no questions asked. So, I told this in a couple of the sessions. If I was competing with you at Willis, and I had a manufacturing company that had 7 locations across the country, I would put a flag in each of those locations, and I would put the office and the person's name that ran that office on there. And I would say, that small local broker can't do what I can do. I can call that person. I can tell you everything that there is about the market, who the carriers are, blah, 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 blah. I had no clue whose name I was putting on that proposal. I didn't tell that person that because they would want to eat my revenue. You guys can do that here. You need an office in every state that there is. You've got it around here. But it's acting differently that you are not one person. You're not by yourself, but until you start thinking differently, your clients aren't going to feel that on the other end. So I want everybody to look at everybody else and say, I got your back.
No, and then you can all buy us beer for making you say that too.
So it takes the motivation. It takes the motivation. Like doing something different tomorrow than what you're doing today takes a self-motivation. So hopefully this was a conversation that had some level of thought process to it that makes you think about something different. I don't drink a lot of coffee. I'm naturally this peppy. But the reality of it is when you get to see the cool stuff that you guys do, and I just say you take it for granted. So go back to your office, block off Monday morning, find 5 clients, and write the story of what you do for that client. Then have your town hall meeting with your office Monday afternoon and say, hey, I just wanted to remind everybody how badass we are. And go through it. I'm not kidding. It will put a resurgence in everybody in your office, and it'll be amazing. If you've never read the book and you don't understand your why,
There's your homework.
there's your homework. Have you ever read the book? Anybody start with why? Simon Sinek?
Golden Circle. 10-minute TED Talk, I think.
The process. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable to go through the process.
Actually, was in tears. I mean, it's
The first time I did it, the guy I was doing it with and I were both bawling. Right, I had just lost my mom, right? And you're trying to figure out like, hey, how do you not cry in front of a bunch of, you know what, screw it, right? The reality of it is you wake up with a different passion. You all have kids or wives or whatever. I don't have, I'm a single guy, no kids. I do this because I've seen what it is. So that extra hour that you have to put at work, the flight, I'm taking a red eye back home tonight. I get home at 6 a.m. in the morning. But it's cool because at the end of the day, we have a real reason. Your why, your purpose. Make your personal why attached to your business. You are your business, you are your brand. Those things should come. I don't get on stage anymore, and it only started when I was 40. So 2 years ago was the first time I'd ever told the story about my parents dying on stage, and now I don't leave home without it, if you will.
Andy and Erie, is it important for people who want to buy from you to know what purpose you're serving?
Humans buy from humans, not logos on cars.
Weird.
So the motivation, one thing that you're going to do, just write that down right now. Everybody, pen up. Write that one thing. Write the one thing, and I want you to just put a date on your calendar on Monday to do that. Whether it's evaluate those 5 clients, whether it's going to be, brushing off your mission statement and going it back. But that one thing starts that motivation, and success breeds success. When you see what happens off of that and the value that can be created, it will drive additional momentum. And I don't care if you're not a Tom Brady fan, he's back in Tampa. But I just want to thank everybody. You guys, this organization for us has been so cool. We have been welcomed with open arms. We really, really love this opportunity, and it is 100% tied to the value that you're already creating. So I just ask that everybody continues that. And if there's anything that we could do as an organization, as just motivation, whatever it might be, we're all in. Scott, Ashley, thank you. Everybody, thank you. And our contact information, in case everybody is, and I'm not that skinny, is right there. And I think it's drink time. So thanks, guys.